you got to eat it and breathe it and find your passion and figure out what you're going to commit to and sacrifice for. And like a lot of guys, I struggled to, figure out what I was going to do when I grew up. I still laugh to this day that I don't quite know, and yet still the hardest thing to do is track. Am I spending my money wisely here?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a challenge we work through all the time. And there's only certain people that you let speak into your professional bank of knowledge, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's some people you're not going to let speak into that, right?
Yeah.
So you have to filter it.
Welcome back to the Wealthy Cowboy Show. Today we got Tyler Jacobs on, a ranch realtor, and got a lot of other stuff going on. Pretty interesting story, just sitting here visiting with you. So how's it going?
Good. Great to be here.
Yeah.
Great to be here.
Tell me, so let's start with your background. Tell me about your background.
How far back you want to go? It's funny. I've been doing some genealogy lately and kind of dug into my grandfather's roots in DeWitt County. My grandfather moved from South Texas during the Depression, went to Houston, did a good job in the insurance business, bought ranches with his prosperity, and that's kind of how I am where I am today. My dad ended up in the real estate business, and I kind of followed in his footsteps. And then, you get a taste of selling ranches, and it gets pretty addictive.
Yeah. Yeah. A realtor, I looked at that when I was looking for something to do.
Yeah.
But there's so much competition. So many people go get their real estate license. And, I was looking at the statistics that came out the other day, and it's like, most of them don't ever even sell anything throughout the year. But yeah, if you can get into selling those big ranches, I mean, you're talking about some big money there.
Yeah. Being there close to College Station, I get a lot of Aggie students, like coming out of the different clubs and stuff that, they'll take me to lunch and they'll pick my brain about how to get into the business and stuff. And it's like any other career. I think that's probably one of the bigger misconceptions about the real estate industry is it's something you can do part-time, or it's something,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't. I mean, you gotta eat it and breathe it and find your passion and figure out what you're going to commit to and sacrifice for. And
yeah.
And then you'll have, it's a great lifestyle. It's a great business. I think most of the younger crowd doesn't probably understand the ups and downs just because of the realities of where we've been in the market the last 10 years. But it's a great industry. I've just been blessed beyond measure, just with being able to do things with family on my own schedule and just the transactions I've been able to be a part of. A lot of fun. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a great business.
Yeah, that's what I've had people tell me, like, you ought to get your real estate license. All the people, if you sold one ranch every couple months or something, and like, yeah, but you really need to be, like you said, either be in it. Like, if you want to sell one ranch every couple months, you got to be working every day. You can't just sit there and just pop up all the time.
That's I think some people say it like a lottery ticket, and it just, I mean, yeah, somebody wins the lottery every time, but that's just generally to make it a dependable career, a dependable income, and to really, support a family,
Mm-hmm.
with the career. It's like anything else. It's 40, 60, 70, 80 hours a week or whatever. My wife laughs at me because, I'm always on the phone. And,
Yeah.
It's kind of one of those, it's just a relationship game, especially in the ranch industry. I mean, it is such a relationship-based industry, and trust and all those things go a long ways.
Yeah, I mean, you always got to be available, I guess.
Yeah, it's not just being available. It's maintaining relationships and people want to know what based on all the school of hard knocks you've been through, but more importantly, the school of hard knocks you've seen your previous clients go through.
DX Trailer Sales is based out of Lubbock, Texas, and it is definitely not just a trailer dealership. If you are involved in the Western way of life, and if you're listening to this show, you probably are, then they have something you need. From trailers for a day working cowboy to a full-time cattle hauler to hay trailers for a farmer or rancher to arena drags, rope and chutes, and feeders for the rodeo cowboy or cowgirl. They also deal in every kind of hay any of your animals could ever need. Literally anything you need, farming, ranching, or rodeoing, they're going to have something for you, and it's going to be at a super affordable price. Besides all that, everyone you deal with there is super friendly and very helpful. So check out DX Trailer Sales on Facebook or dxtrailers.com and tell them you came from the Wealthy Cowboy Show.
You know, what kind of value. So it's funny. I mean, I might get a call at 9:15. Somebody just needs the name of a vet or something. But sometimes, I get a call at 9:15 at night, and it's somebody struggling with a title problem, on their purchase. You just never know what it's going to be. And, and the other kind of crazy thing is it's texting, it's WhatsApp, it's email, it's, Teams platform or whatever, I mean, you have to be communicating on a variety of platforms because everybody's different. Everybody's got a different way they want to communicate now.
I like text the best.
Do you really?
That way, like I've got a bunch right now, and like people can just text me, and I can get to them when I get to them. Or it's like a phone call. You play phone tag with somebody, so I just put it down in a text message. I'll read it, and then when I get time, I'll call you back, or I'll write you back, or whatever. But some people, like you said, some people won't answer a text message. They want a phone call, or if it's a professional deal, they may rather have an email. Even our work, our payment processing, I communicate with them a lot through text. And like we may email each other and then they're texting me and we'll text back and forth. So yeah, it's all, everybody likes something different.
Yeah. And I think just customer service point of view, that's just something you gotta work to understand. Sometimes I just blatantly ask, how do you want me to communicate this?
Yeah.
I can send a PDF file through a text now.
Yeah.
I don't have to email you. Just be honest with me. Tell me you're never going to check your email, and I won't email you.
Right. People are like, email me, and I'm like, I can send the same thing through a text. Why do you want to email?
Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting though, because the younger crowd, which is that has been there's a lot of successful entrepreneurs that are younger now. And it's just really interesting because they tend to crave the face-to-face interaction more. You got to figure out the technology side of it, but they really appreciate doing, what you and I are doing here right now, just being face-to-face. It's like time is money, and they understand that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's just, when I started this, I've done one virtual Zoom podcast, and it's not the same. You get Zoom is great, but like sitting here with somebody, you really get a connection, seeing all the mannerisms, body language. You really get to know each other a little bit. You spend an hour, 2 hours with somebody.
Absolutely. That's, we were pitching an idea last week about doing some YouTube channel, collaborative YouTube channel stuff. And one of the things I proposed was, we ought to do a ride along on a ranch showing, and do something like that where people understand what it's like to come and look at a ranch, because believe it or not, that's pretty intimidating to people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how do I do that? How do I go look at a ranch, and there's so many first time buyers in the ranch industry now.
Probably afraid to ask questions and all that.
Questions. Yeah. So we're actually talking about, kind of collaborating to say, okay, well, let's do a video in a truck or a buggy, driving around a ranch, just seeing, kind of showing what it's like, and just to take the intimidation out of it. We're just guys, we just, there's nothing formal about it. It's we want to figure out what we can do to help you.
Yeah. Let's back up. So when you're telling me you rodeoed a little bit in high school. Mm-hmm. What all did you do?
So I was, when I graduated as a senior in high school, I think I weighed 113 pounds and I was 5'6". And as any of my sports coaches could have told you, I was small, but I made up for it by being slow. But I did. I was a Joe Beaver, Roy Cooper. I mean, I even had Paul Turney, when he won the Time Event Championship. I had his poster on my wall as a kid, but I always wanted to be I absolutely loved roping calves. team roping was okay. I enjoyed that in high school, and I really enjoyed cutting horses a lot. That was one of my real passions. I really enjoyed that, and like a lot of folks in the '80s, we rode high for a while and we rode low for a while. So the cutting horse deal came and went.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
And then you went to Tech.
I did.
Went to West Texas. You said you wanted a taste of that.
Yeah, my mom was born and raised in Lubbock, and I thought I wanted to be an engineer or something, and then I could never make it past calculus, so I bounced around like everybody else and ended up in the wildlife department and really liked that, and finally graduated there. I took a couple seasons off guiding hunts and doing that deal, and ended up graduating with a wildlife degree, and didn't really know what I wanted to do at that point in my life after I graduated, but I loved West Texas. The irony is that I married a Lubbock girl, and she hated West Texas.
Yeah.
So you get a lot of that. You get a lot of folks that are raised in Lubbock, can't wait to leave, and that was my wife. And so we moved back home after we got married, and but I'm still a West Texas guy. I love it. I could move there tomorrow, and just the culture, the people. There's good people everywhere, but I don't know. I just really, really enjoyed being that. I worked my way through Tech mostly, driving a tractor and moving irrigation pipe and working on pivots and bull buggies and on outside of New Deal. Started with the USDA for a while, and then I moved over to a neighboring farm and running big 8-row equipment. And I'm from Little Montgomery, Texas, running 8-row equipment in West Texas. I got some fun stories about that.
Did you tear a few things up?
Oh man, did I? I was in a guy's shop just a couple of days ago, and the very tractor that I tore up the first day on the job, that same model, same exact big red and black Case IH 7140 was in that guy's shop, and I was looking at it, and I was just laughing and grinning. It was good times. It was good times.
Yeah. Shady's from Plainview, so not far up there. But I never had a craving for the Panhandle up there. I do like West, but that's a little too flat up there, and it gets the dang wind and the cold. We go up there. Dang, is the wind ever gonna stop?
Yeah.
But she came down here. We met at Tarleton, and she got addicted to the trees and the green grass.
It's funny how that happens.
Yeah.
It's funny. That's exactly what Amy did. She just did not want. She was done. She was absolutely done.
Yeah. So you're working up there, and I guess she kind of forced you to move back, or that was... I kind of figured out that guiding hunts wasn't a way to make a living. Were you doing that like in New Mexico, like elk hunts?
No, I was actually working on a big high fence place in Michigan for about 6 months out of the year. It was one of the original whitetail deals up here called the Sanctuary. And, we guided Dale Earnhardt and Norman Schwarzkopf and a bunch of big names. That deal started in the late 70s. And by some Texans that just kind of had an interesting idea about building a big high fence and fencing in these native Michigan deer. And, man, they went to pouring the protein and the corn to them and culling and doing all that stuff that's real common here now.
Yeah.
They were doing it in Michigan in the late 70s, early 80s. And so I went up there and spent 2 long seasons up there, and I worked around a lot of guys that were full-time guides. They'd had about a 3-season rotation where they would be, they do bear hunt or turkey hunt in the spring, and kind of make do some fishing work, guide some fishing trips or whatever. And they kind of had a rotation where they made a good living year round guiding hunts, but Amy and I knew we were getting married, and I didn't see that working.
Yeah.
So I graduated, and then she graduated, I don't know, maybe a semester later. And we decided we were going to move back to Montgomery.
And then, so what did you decide to do down there, and go right into real estate? Or
I've never been a big planner.
Yeah.
But
that's how I am. I like to jump out of the plane and figure out how to fly.
We're brethren there. I can assure you. Yeah, just I've always said that God protects a fool, you know. The general idea was I was never going to be in real estate. And I've told this story a number of times, but I never wanted to be in real estate. And it took me a long time to figure out why. And it recently, this is only about 3 or 4 years ago, did I figure out why, when I was a kid and trying to figure out what I was going to do career-wise, did I not want to be in real estate? And the reason was my dad, who's been in business his whole life, been in the land sales, ranch sales, development. I mean, he's done it all. And my whole childhood, when I was with him at work, he was tied to that phone and he couldn't leave. And it was always one more call. Hang on a second, just one more call. We'd be at a payphone or a lawyer's office or a bank or wherever we would be, and it'd be, hang on, just one more call. And I admit, I thought that was torture.
Yeah.
I thought that was miserable. And you compare that to the way you and I live, you know, with our phones, and now we can be most anywhere doing most anything and still be very professional about what we do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just totally different. And so I always said I wouldn't be in the business, and it took me a while to figure out that's why. I just didn't, that really bothered me. I moved pretty fast, you know, and so I moved home, and Amy and I moved home, and we moved into a little rent house my grandmother gave us, and had a little set of cows, and I had big dreams about that, you know, and so the plan was, it was Dad and I, we were going to buy little 20, 40, 50 acre tracts and clean them up and resell them. I was going to be the dozer track hoe guy, and, you know,
The labor.
Yeah, that was the general idea. And so he had a little project going on where he had a couple 100 acres he was cutting up, and it didn't take Dad very long to say, well, just go on out there and see Tyler. He'll show you around that place. And about the second time that happened, I kind of thought, man, I kind of like this. This is pretty cool, you know. So it didn't take long for me to realize that's what I'm supposed to be doing, you know. Now, I still like a backhoe, and I still like a dozer, and I still like that stuff, but I'm glad I'm not trying to make a living at it. That doesn't fit me.
Yeah.
So
you realize that ranch sales was your deal.
Yeah.
When you got into real estate, were you able to just immediately kind of specialize in that? Have y'all seen the prices of bulls these days? Just a decent one at the sale barn cost is crazy. It might be time to look at leasing your bulls instead of buying them. 100th Meridian Ranching specializes in leasing out quality bulls. This can save a lot of headache with dealing with bulls and all that, and also help out your bottom line. They deliver all across the country and have several different kinds of bulls to fit your specific operation. Check out 100th Meridian Ranching on Facebook, and you can also check out their website, 100thmeridianranching.com.
I was thinking about kind of what really gave me the passion for true ranch sales, you know, like real, you know, operating, hunting and cattle ranches, you know. And it started, I listed a place down in Wharton, and it was a registered cattle deal. It was a Brangus operation. And some out-of-state people had moved in there and bought this thing and built it. It was a real show place, you know. Actually, it was in Bowling's where it was. And my uncle was a pretty good photographer, and this is before digital cameras and everything. He took a picture. Sloan Williams and Jim Williams leased that ranch and took all the Brangus cattle and were using them as embryo recips. And so we took the coolest picture of 6 or 7 solid black slick Brangus cows, followed by equal number of solid white calves strung out down this fence. And it was a picture we put in what was then, the cat's meow of ranch sales, which was Texas Farm and Ranch magazine. And we got more calls off that ad. And the power of photography, right? The power of media, really, is what that was. And I ended up with a Brazilian client. And over the course of about 2 years, I must have showed my Brazilian client about 20 ranches. And that experience is probably what really hooked me on that's what I want to do. it was just so neat. I mean, we traveled, gosh, 60% of the state looking at ranches and talking to old ranch brokers. I could throw out some names right now. Everybody'd laugh at, that knows the business and just old legends in the business, and just getting to know those guys and getting to see these ranches, getting to see new country. And so, Amy and I were talking about this just the other day and what gets me out of bed every morning in the business is going to a new ranch, and finding somebody that it fits, because every ranch is different. It don't matter if it's a hunting place or a cattle place or whatever it is, they're all different and they all have really unique features and they all have assets and I love going in a place like that and picking out what makes this place special, and the state is so diverse. I mean, it's not like selling Florida, in Texas. I mean, you can go across the county and it'd be two entirely different ranches.
Yeah.
So that's the part of it I really like. And it just kind of evolved from there. Really, it took a while before that was what I could really solely focus on, was just the larger ranches. You got to pay bills like everybody else does. So, I mean, I've sold gas station sites and I've sold, neighborhood houses before. I mean, I wasn't too scared to do that, but the ranch sales is always what I wanted to go after. And so this will be, I don't think I did the math. I think this is 27 years now. So, it's
starting to get the hang of it.
Starting to get the hang of it. But here's the funny thing. My dad is still active in the business and I don't know who's been in the business longer, him or Sam Middleton, but Dad got his broker's license in 1966 and is still doing it. So he's 81 and he still goes hard every day selling land. So I think I got another couple decades in me, Lord willing, and the creek don't rise.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I was listening to a podcast on the way up here, and this guy, he was talking about, he did software or something, and he was talking about, he landed a really big client, and he was talking about the big clients. He's like, that big client was a whale. He said, that's a whale fishing, and when you go out whale fishing, you just catch one every once in a while. And he said the smaller businesses, his smaller clients, that's little fish. You go out and you got a cash flow in between the whales because you're only catching one every once in a while. So he said, I'll go out there and go fishing for those little easy to catch ones a little bit to kind of get me through, but I want to catch a whale, once a year or however long. But it got me thinking you could apply it to anything, any kind of business. It's like you have your ideal clients, that you want to serve, or ideal places or whatever. But like you said, you still got to make a living in between. So you might go, hey, this one came to me. I'm going to go ahead and sell it, or I'm going to do this or whatever. Got a cash flow in between there.
It's always a balance. When inventory gets low, you start scrambling and you start thinking, man, I got to get some cookies on the shelf here, and you're more likely to take inventory that you might not take if you've got, 3 sure enough, top shelf offerings and 4 or whatever it is, and then that's our business. I mean, if you sell, 3, 4, bigger places a year, or 1 in some cases, that's a great year, but man, it's one of those things where you're always trying to backfill and you're always thinking, man, I need to get some inventory. Right now I'd love to have some Trans-Pecos inventory. I had, one listing out there for about 4 years. I finally got it sold and I don't have anything out there anymore. Yeah. Like, man, I love going out there. I love servicing that area. I love working that area. Can I, how can I get out there and, who do I know out there where I can, forge some relationships and, so you're always just thinking, what's next year going to bring? What's, gosh, what's this year going to bring? You don't ever know. I mean, sometimes a Tuesday morning can change everything.
Yeah.
That one call on Tuesday morning, you just don't ever know. So it's fun. I think it's just fun to have your hand in a lot of different types of things, just to make sure you're exposed to a lot of opportunity. You know, I have one foot in the hunting world and I have one foot in the cattle world, you know, so it's kind of interesting. You know, seems like there's very different, very different markets, you know.
Mm-hmm. What was it like getting started in real estate? I mean, was it immediate takeoff or was it a struggle? Because I know when you go, I'm in sales. I've been in sales. Like when it's 100% commission, you have unlimited upside, but you may not make anything. You know, if you're not out there working. So I know it's a struggle, and a lot of people give up on it because you know, you got to learn it and then build that reputation up to get clients coming in. What was it like when you were getting started?
You know, it's like a lot of guys, I struggled to, figure out what I was going to do when I grew up. You know, I still laugh to this day that I don't quite know, but, I did a lot of different things to help pay the bills, but, and I mean, there was a time in my life and I really thought I wanted to ranch full time and then, real estate would just be a kind of a stepping stone to get there. But, there is an element of sales, and so that part of it is interesting. I do think you have to have an approachable, trusting demeanor. You know, you've got to inherently trust people, and you got to help them trust you, right? And so when you start with the smaller stuff, I mean, you're if I've got a bottle of water and you've got a bottle of water, the only thing that's going to get one of those chosen is somebody selling the attribute. I mean, you're comparing apples to apples. When you move up to bigger assets, whether it be in commercial or the ranch deal or farms or whatever it is, they're not comparable, and so I love selling ranches because ranches sell themselves. If it's a fit, I mean, we're going to figure that out really fast. If it's not, we're going to figure it out really fast. Mm-hmm. And I really don't have to sell. What I have to do is I have to present the property in its best light, make sure that everybody sees all the opportunity and the assets and the inherent qualities of that ranch, and make sure the media represents that, the photography and the videography and the write-up and all that stuff. And then the marketing component, which I have ideas and input on, but I don't run the day-to-day of that anymore. So the sales deal changes over time, I think, especially as you kind of move up the ladder a little bit, if you will.
But you still have to get, well, I mean, your big deal will be getting the listing, right? That's
where all business begins and ends, is with the listing. And so that's where I keep coming back to. It's a relationship business. A lot of, you get a lot of what I call cold leads where you didn't have a relationship. Mm-hmm. You get that from your marketing platform, if you will. I mean, people see how you market property and they want to be a part of that, right? Whereas if you go back to like entry level stuff, like if you go back to the say the residential world, right? I'm not an expert in that anymore, but it's always seemed to me that, the best way to be successful in real estate in the residential world was you own 2 or 3 streets in your neighborhood. In other words, you've sold every house in that little block, 2 blocks, 3 blocks, 3 or 4 times. Everybody knows that you're the one that knows every house and you're the one that knows everything. And that's how you build a real, solid book of business if you're not building a team per se. Mm-hmm. Looks like a little speaking out of turn there. I don't know that world real well, but the ranch side of it is you got to have that inventory on the shelf, and then you got to maintain those relationships, because you don't ever know when a buyer is going to become a seller or a seller is going to become a buyer. Mm-hmm. But if you don't have inventory on the shelf, if you don't have inventory for people to come look at and to talk to you about, and hey Tyler, I saw that 800 acres you had on the website. I don't think that's a fit, but here's what I'm looking for. I mean, you just get calls like that all the time. Where it's just a reminder that you're there. You want to do business with you. You want to do business with them.
Yeah.
And then you're, making sure that you're given every opportunity you can to sell that listing also.
Were you kind of starting out, and then now were you or are you like going out trying to meet ranch owners, people in the ranching industry, farming industry, wildlife industry? Is that where you say like relationship building, going to events, getting on the phone?
Yeah. One of the things that different partners in my business have different ways of doing that. I like keeping a foot in the cattle business, like keeping a foot in the horse business. And I try to go hunt and fish a little bit every year, just to stay exposed to that. You're always building those relationships kind of organically. And then there's very strategic things you do, so for example, we just got back from NCBA, the cattle convention in San Antonio.
Mm-hmm.
We've had a booth there for going on 40 years, because that's a very national organization. So we might have a client from Idaho there. We might have a client from Virginia there, just staying in front of them, saying hi, how you doing, putting a little inventory out on display, and then also taking the opportunity to kind of stay up on relevant topics, so, even if I'm selling a hunting ranch, people are going to want to talk about CWD, people are going to want to talk about, the USDA or Fish and Wildlife, what they've done lately on some exotic or what have you. And so you got to stay knowledgeable on those topics. So we'll be at TSCRA at the convention in April. We've been there for the last number of years and trying to get involved in that organization. And Texas Wildlife, we're involved in there, and so always trying to expand that circle,
Mm-hmm.
so sponsoring different things, but then again, it's every way I can think of that we can think of as an organization to stay engaged with people.
You've heard us talk about the LRP program on several episodes. It's a program that allows you to lock in prices to protect yourself from downside risk while allowing you open to upside gains in the cattle market. Cameron Floyd with Livestock Risk Services, based out of the Oklahoma City stockyards, specializes in this type of coverage. He's also a cowboy that lives it every day, so he can relate, and he enjoys helping other ranchers get the peace of mind knowing they're protected from the downside risk of the cattle market. It doesn't matter if you're a small producer or a large operator. If you're in the cattle business, Cameron can probably help you. They have options for cow-calf producers, stockers, and feeders. These programs are designed to protect you from down markets and allow you to create a business plan for your operation. There's no margin calls, no brokerage fees, no minimums, no upfront costs, and your premiums aren't due until the end of the endorsement period. And they're also tax deductible. This program can be a game changer. Go back to any of the episodes with the cattle guys, and we talk about how they use it to manage their risk. Contact Cameron Floyd with Livestock Risk Services at 918-604-1775. You can also check out the website, livestockriskservices.com, and there's also a quote tool on there. We'll put a link down below and Cameron's email down below. And remember, tell him you heard about him on the Wealthy Cowboy Show.
I mean, it's a shotgun approach.
Mm-hmm.
There is no rifle approach. It's a shotgun. It's a shotgun. You just don't ever know. I think I found you on LinkedIn of all places. I don't do Instagram anymore. I don't do Facebook anymore. And I just recently found kind of YouTube on a personal level.
Yeah.
But I think I found you on LinkedIn, so.
Yeah, LinkedIn's and that's one I don't get on very much, but I'm the same way. I'm on every platform. I'm not on X, but I'm on every platform. So just like communication, I like Facebook better. So I see more Facebook stuff, but one of my dream clients may be on this other platform, and if I'm not out there, we're never going to connect. So.
Why aren't you on X? I'm curious.
I don't know. I just never have gone into it.
My sister's rabid about it.
Yeah.
And between sports and politics, man, that's her place to
Yeah,
be.
it looks like people rant and rave on there.
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
I'm on I like Facebook because it's a mixture of written, of video, and of pictures, and the buying selling aspect of the marketplace and the groups. I mean, there's a lot going on there.
Yeah.
And then you got your Instagram's more pictures and videos now, and TikTok is just, it's all videos of whatever you want to watch. But
Yeah, we hadn't figured out TikTok yet.
Yeah.
We're still trying, but we haven't figured out.
TikTok's its own deal, and but it's good. I mean, they can all be beneficial. Like I said, there's forever. The idea was that TikTok was all these kids on watching funny videos and stuff, and I'm like, I know a lot of middle-aged men that scroll a lot on there, more than anybody else. So I wouldn't completely listen to that. Like I'm not saying you couldn't sell a ranch off of TikTok.
Oh, we have.
Yeah,
we have. I got a partner in Laredo, and he's pretty big in the hunting circles, and I don't know how he hooked up with this guy, but we ended up listing a pretty good sized ranch off of some interaction on TikTok he and Jay had, and I'm like, how does this happen? I'm like you. To me, it's dancing kids. Yeah. I don't get it. So yeah, I it's a brave new world, and you can't be scared to stick your toe in it.
Yeah, there's what I've learned is like the first principles of advertising, marketing, sales. It's all the same all the way back for thousands of years, but the attention is in different places. So you just got to keep up with where it's at. And social media, I think, is humongous right now. And then, 15, 20 years down the road, it may be in some other area. You just got to shift with it.
That's fascinating. So, going from a small town shop where I started, with my family shop, and then moving over to where I'm at now is kind of, a larger organization with a bigger budget and a lot of admin, and so for 10 years now, I've watched our marketing budget, which is 7 figures, shift from print media to digital media, and yet still the hardest thing to do is track, am I spending my money wisely here?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a challenge we work through all the time. Everybody's talking about metrics now, let's look at the metrics, and it's okay. Well, it's like at, ag statistics professor of mine said at Tech, and we walked in the room the first day, and on the wall, on the chalkboard, there was written, it said, before he walked in, it was just written on the chalkboard. It said 96.4% of all statistics are made up.
Yeah.
And then he come in like 10 minutes late on that first day of class, said, you don't get that joke, you probably need to drop this class, So it was that's kind of the way I feel about metrics. I mean, it's just statistics at the end of the day, but how do we gauge where we're spending our money? I think that's, and our time even more specifically.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to. I always ask people advertise on here and advertise on social media and stuff, and it's like, what do you want the outcome to be? Do you want it to be? And I was talking to a guy, probably Casey Mock,
Mm-hmm.
the other day about it, and I'm like, do you want to just be top of mind brand awareness, or are you looking for a direct sell? Because they're kind of two different things. And depending on what you're trying to do, you could get the same outcome, and depending on what you wanted, it's going to be success or failure. So you got to kind of measure that. But like Facebook, I just like so much. I mean, organically you can post so much and get a reach, but you can target, like Facebook has like 40-something thousand data points. They know when you open your phone, when you open the app, what time of day, what you like to watch, what you like to see, what you engage with, all that. And you can set those parameters, to almost get down. If I knew enough about you, I could show just you basically an ad. So that's really cool. And then, so you can, depend on what you're selling and stuff, you can do lots of cool things.
Yeah.
With it.
Facebook is Facebook and Google. I'm not an expert on this, but just based on what I've been told, as in the real estate industry, HUD, the federal government, has really come down on them as far as using those demographics to place advertisements. So it's really interesting. You know, that
I mean, that's the big thing with Zuckerberg going to Congress and stuff, because they know so much about you, and then they're able to sell that data to somebody wanting to advertise. And I mean, if it's right or wrong, or whatever.
We're geofencing right now, like real hard. You know, it's one of the things we're doing with particular ranches, you know, in particular sites. And, you know, it's been hit and miss. I mean, we've had some good luck with it, and then it's been just a total wash. And it's like, well, I don't know what happened. Seems like, you know, SEO is a big deal for us again. You know, for a while it wasn't. Now it is. You know, it's like we're driving SEO. That's what we're doing. And you know, I'm a big picture guy. I don't get in the weeds on that, but it's interesting. You know, how do I get in front of people? You know, the branding versus advertising question, you know? So,
and marketing's all a guess too. So like even the best marketers are, the reason they can reach people is because they just fail so fast. It's like, we're going to put out 300 different variations of an ad, and then in 5 days, they're going to have it down to 3 variations that are working, you know, and then narrow it all, you know, all the way down, and they'll be able to tell you all that stuff. But at the end of the day, you may not get a sale. And they're going to say, well, that one didn't work. Let's try this one. So you never know.
Yeah. You don't know. And I mean, you know, you look at people that are very successful in my business, I can assure you they struggle with the same exact questions we do. You know, it's like, okay, is this a branding spend, or is this an advertising or spend, or are we just throwing it in the marketing bucket and we're just going to call it marketing?
Yeah.
You know, like it's interesting just to watch everybody wrestle with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's challenging.
Talk a little bit about your brokerage that you're with now, because y'all sold some really big ranches.
We have. You know, it's a very old company. Started after World War II. Started in the finance world, actually. So after World War II, Henry Hall started selling farm loans for life insurance companies. You know, had a Denver office and kind of worked east. And then another generation of the Hall family, was in Billings. And over time, the real estate part of the industry they kind of wed those two together. And for the last, I don't know, say 40 years, the company became a real true operating partnership, which is pretty rare in our industry. I don't know of any other ranch and farm brokerage that operates the way we do. So basically, there's 25 of us from Laredo to Sun Valley to Alexandria or Charlottesville, Virginia, you know, and we are a pure partnership. So we take every fee we generate and we throw it in a bucket. We pay our bills and then we pay ourselves. And it frees us up to do a lot of things differently. And is if I sell you a ranch or I don't sell you a ranch, talking about sales, right? I'm still going to feed my family because I'm participating in the commissions of 24 other brokers. And there's ups and downs in the industry that you have to ride, but the day in, day out ability to make a living, you know, you put that aside and you say, okay, what can I do to collaborate? You know, I'm working as hard to sell some of Mark's really great ranch listings in Nebraska and South Dakota as he is trying to send clients to me in Texas, you know, and it really works well. And it really puts a client first approach that I've never seen anywhere else in the industry. You know, it's the difference, you know, the street term is eat to kill, right? So, or kill to eat, excuse me. I said that backwards. You know, you take the kill to eat reality out of the brokerage world, whether, I don't care what kind of brokerage it is, you know, it just helps with the fiduciary role that you're trying to help clients and look after that that interest. Matter of fact, I think our latest tagline is keep it if you can, and we mean that. If there's a way that we can help you keep this ranch, making you a loan, helping you with management, helping you sort out some real estate issues with your family, which is the number one reason why these ranches sell. We want to do that. We really, really, really believe in the value of these ranches, just in the communities and the agricultural virtues of all these places we work. And we want to solve problems. We don't want to make problems. Mm-hmm. And so we've been able to participate in some really big deals. A lot of them we don't talk about because we hold our non-disclosure agreements. But we were able to represent Kroenke when he bought Wagner. I've sold some fun stuff, big stuff in West Texas. I've sold some big timber stuff that never imagined I'd be part of deals that big. But it's not about the deals being big to me. It's about going back to what I said earlier. I like being on places I hadn't been on before, and I don't care if it's 200 acres or 200,000 acres. Mm-hmm. We've got the Great Western listed out in New Mexico right now, and one of the hardest problems we're having is showing that thing. It's so big. Yeah, it's hard to show. It's so stinking big. It's hard to show. And it's like, okay, well, can you really see all the good stuff on this thing from a truck? Or, but looking at it from a helicopter isn't all that fun either. Yeah. So it's kind of cool. We get to do stuff like that. And that's the kind of stuff you just make memories doing. And, mm-hmm. When my kids were younger, they got to go with me on a lot of this stuff. They were good about just sitting in the truck. But to go, go show a big West Texas ranch or a cool hunting place or, a high fence place that had, really weird stuff bouncing around on it. My kids ate that up. That was fun. Mm-hmm. That was real fun. But yeah, the organization is really unique and the partners we have, they're just top shelf. They're just legends in their own right. And I just pinch myself every day that I get to be a part of it. So,
yeah. That could be, really good. I would think you'd have to have a lot of faith in your other partners to pull it like that. Because if you're the top producer and you're like, man, this guy's not producing nothing over here.
That's exactly right. So we have a little saying, when, there's people, one of my best friends, recently retired, that was a partner and so you're kind of looking at backfilling now, okay, well, how are we going to replace him, But we've got a saying, you're better off to have no partner than a bad partner.
Yeah.
And so character and all that stuff really begins to matter. Either you trust the system or you don't. And if you're trying to work the system, you're not a fit.
Yeah.
So you just got to trust that your partners are working as hard as you are and understand that, there was, I think we went, quite a while without selling a Kansas ranch, the inventory just wasn't there, but it worked out, and we sold stuff in Nebraska, we sold stuff in Oklahoma, and the bills got paid and profits got dispersed and it worked out well, so it's, there's a different aspect to it. And then the other thing that I think that's probably pretty unique about us is that finance arm, the farm loan, ranch loan deal, we have that line that gets us in a little bit different realm of expertise. And then we have a management division that, gosh, it dates back to selling ranches to Ted Turner in the 80s. And, those guys are just top shelf. So we can do due diligence for clients and people that other people just can't do. We can put a prospectus together for, if you're looking at a, 500 cal unit and, you really want to know, hey, does this thing wash its face or what's it going to take to capitalize it? Or, what can I do debt wise on this thing? We can pull all those components together and somebody can take a really honest look at what it may be a lifestyle investment, But at the same time, it is a black box financial investment too.
If you're in the livestock business, you probably use a hot shot, and it seems like they're always either broke or dead when you need one. Hercules Ag has solved that problem. I got one of their hot shots when it first came out, and I still haven't even had to charge it or anything, and it works every time. I just got my second one in, and I got a little short shaft on it to leave it this chute. They have several different options for shafts to fit whatever needs you need from long to short. They also have the 50 milliliter repeater syringes, and it comes with different color ends, so you know which medicine goes in which syringe, which is a big hassle. Check out HerculesAg.com today to order yours or to see about becoming a dealer, and use discount code CC10 at checkout for 10% off your order.
You know, they do not want to be foolish with their money. And it may be 5-10% of their net worth, a lot of these deals, you know, but we don't sell a lot of ranches to people that inherited money. Most of these ranches we sell are people that made the money themselves.
Yes, they're not going to throw it away.
Yeah, and they're not going to be careless with it. And the greater fool theory does not work in ranch real estate, I can assure you. That's one of the neat things about it. You know, if we got a seller that thinks they're going to find a greater fool, we generally part ways with them. You know, it's just not something you want to be a part of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool how it sounds like y'all have like a whole ecosystem there.
We do.
So it's not, y'all kind of do it a little bit different than just going out and hunting.
Yep.
Hunting buyers.
Yeah.
Hunting sellers.
Yeah. And the other thing I think is pretty neat is we keep a real good foothold in production agriculture too, because we also have an auction division. And so we sell a lot of farms by auction, and I sell some ranches by auction too, where it's more common. But it just keeps us tied in, you know, with production agriculture. And, you know, it's hard to sell a ranch in Texas anymore that is truly a production agriculture ranch.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's hard to find them. But there's always that component, and you better understand it. You know, it's no different understanding the hunting or the water, or, you know, construction side of it or whatever it is. But you know, you need to be knowledgeable, and you need to be that trusted advisor that says, you know, look, you know, I sold a deal. Oh gosh, I don't know, 2 months ago, not too far from here actually. And the owner, I guess the owner did, attempted to dig a lake in a sand pit. But it was a beautiful spot. I think it was an absolute beautiful spot, you know. And so he really wanted this deal, and my client did. I had sold a ranch for him 10 years ago, and he wanted it. He'd kind of been out of the deal and wanted another hunting ranch. And so we went and looked at this deal. Man, he really liked the location, liked everything about it. And you know, I don't know if you are familiar what it costs to line a lake right now, but it's a lot of money. And this was about a 4-acre lake, but it would have made the setting, you know. And so we went through so many gyrations and ways of looking at, okay, if I buy this place and I spend the money on this lake, you know, and I end up with this ranch where my home's sitting here and I have this beautiful lake below me. And, you know, if I spend that several $100,000 on this liner, you know, is that going to be worth it? So we went through all that, you know. I mean, we did some analysis and talked about, you know, the cost basis and what it would look like at the end. And, you know, that's fun stuff to get into. And to his credit, I mean, he pulled the trigger. And I mean, the day after he closed, he had that lake contractor out there pushing that sand around, you know, getting ready to take delivery of that liner. So stuff like that's fun. You know, it really is. You get into those different scenarios and learning and learning who to trust and who not to trust, what people to trust, you know, what advice are you taking that you're turning to your clients? I mean, you do the same thing, you know. There's only certain people that you let speak into your professional bank of knowledge, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's some people you're not going to let speak into that, right?
Yeah.
So you have to filter it. Yeah. That's cool. It's fun.
And my next question kind of goes into that. Who are some of your top mentors?
Oh gosh. Well, let's start with my dad. You know, everything that I do day in and day out. I mean, I'm just mimicking what he does. Excuse me, he's one of my competitors. You know, so I looked at a ranch years ago with Sam Middleton's son, Charlie, and got to know that organization pretty cool. And that was neat. But in my own organization, I mean, there's just guys that have just done so much. One of them's Monty Lyons in Lubbock. He's the one that handled Boone Pickens' sale here recently. Joel Ledbetter in Bozeman might be one of the most spot on, precise brokers I've ever met in my life. I mean, just nails it, you know. And then there's just guys that have done it for a long time, have not done it on a big stage, but they've done it well, you know. And a lot of those guys have retired now. And, you know, there's a friend of mine down there near College Station, Deetra Robertson, you know, and she kind of taught me how to market a horse place. You know, I mean, there's just a lot of people out there that do business the right way that you want to be around and you want to learn from, you know. But you know, it's at the end of the day, it kind of comes down to character, you know. I mean, do you want that client to know all the warts, or do you not? You know, I mean, gosh, if I have to show them the warts, they might not buy that ranch.
Yeah.
You can't take that approach, or you shouldn't take that approach, I should say.
Yeah, it won't be good for the long term.
No, you won't sell that person a second ranch, I can assure you. Yeah. It's a fun business though.
What's some of the best financial advice you've got?
You know, I think the challenging thing that I see, and I gave a little talk on this at Cattle Raisers a number of years ago, and is you see people taking what is probably the largest asset they'll ever own and mismanaging it from a planning point of view. Now, that can be a number of things. That can be airship, you know, how they handle their airship. So, you know, so the reason why so many of these big ranches sell is because that wasn't handled right, you know. So first and foremost, don't force your kids into operating a ranch. That never goes well. Have you heard that song, S. Lazy H?
Mm-hmm.
That is the saddest, truest song in my business.
Yeah.
I mean, I can tell you 100 versions of that song right there. And I can tell you some name brand ranches that are going through that deal right now.
Yeah. I think it's crazy that it's like they make their will without ever discussing it. And so when the person passes, it's a surprise to everybody. It's like, well, that's not what we wanted, you know, or whatever. And then also you look at what I always say is like, everybody, you know, talks crap about the people that sell the family ranch. Well, did they pass on a burden or a blessing?
That's exactly
right. Is it paid off? Did they have life insurance in place that leaves money to operate it, you know, or is there a plan in place to make it profitable, or is it just here's a bill for you to inherit?
Yeah, it's wild. I tell you what, it's fascinating to me because there's some very wealthy, well-known families out there where, you know, the kids never had a choice. You know, this is your destiny. You have to operate this ranch, and they don't want to operate it. I mean, it was just forced on them. They don't want to do it. And then you have the multi-sibling situation where maybe one of them, you know, finds interest in the ranch. And I don't know how well you know Donnell Brown, but he has a little PowerPoint deal he goes through about how they, you know, saw bringing the kids back to the ranch, the next generation of the ranch, and kind of how they work into a spot. But at the end of the day, it's got to be their decision, you know. And you know, my grandfather had to leave his ranch because of the Depression. But as soon as he made enough money, he went back to buying ranches because that's how he wanted to raise his family. He worked my dad like a dog as a kid. I mean, indentured servant kind of dog, you know. And boy, when Dad graduated high school, I mean, he was gone.
Yeah.
He went to UT, and he didn't want anything to do with that ranch until 15 years went by, and he's like, you know, I think it's what I want for my family too, you know. And then I kind of get pulled in the deal, and everything I did as a kid on the ranch was fun. Like I never, it's hard work, but it was just fun to me. The freedom, the autonomy, the responsibility, all that stuff, you go figure it out. Hey, this has got to be done. You go figure it out. That problem solving ability. Anyway, I know I'm getting off track, but it's just funny because people don't plan that asset. Then the other side of it is I've got a large family ranch that I'm the sole proprietor of. I own it somehow. It's mine. And then I take that thing and I pigeonhole it in a way that is so bad. I build this gargantuan lodge on it, or I put I want to be a registered breeder. And so I build this elaborate sale facility on it, where you're dumping millions of dollars into this thing. And now your asset is only valued by that one thing. And so, you got to be real special. You got to be real creative about how you do those things. If you're going to do them, have a long-term plan. Don't just say, hey, I want to build a hunting lodge. And next thing you know, you got 25,000 feet under roof and it's, and then gosh, the hunting business gets old, and now you're trying to sell that thing, it's that's the whole thing. I think I encourage people to treat it as their biggest asset, which it is. I know cattle prices are high and exotics are high and everything's high right now, but it's still at the end of the day, that piece of dirt, all that's operating on is still the biggest asset in your portfolio for 95% of the people, we're talking about.
Mm-hmm. What would, if you could attribute one skill to just being successful in general, what skill would it be?
Listening. Yeah, you've got to listen and ask good questions, and the good questions come from experience,
Mm-hmm. I always think that when I get in a bad situation, I'm like, dang, I should have asked either more questions or different questions.
Right. Because if your intentions are honest and true, what comes back to bite is what you didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, and I just didn't ask the right question. So, people, the old saying, people don't care what you know till they know that you care. Right. Mm-hmm. So, if I'm trying to help you, if I'm doing all the talking and not doing the listening, I'm probably going to make a miss. I need to be a good listener. Mm-hmm. I think that's the biggest skill.
And then the last wrap up question, your favorite restaurant.
Whoa, my favorite restaurant. Man, that's a great question. I don't know that I have a favorite restaurant. I think I have memorable restaurants like Joe T. Garcia's or Riata, in mm-hmm. Fort Worth. If I could go back in time and pick a restaurant to go back to, it would probably be the little Mexican restaurant that I used to go to with my grandparents. The corn tortillas and the butter patties, and kind of having Tex-Mex that way back in the day before the big Tex-Mex show came out. I like it, but I've eaten. One thing you learn how to do when you're selling ranches, you learn how to eat, mm-hmm. and I've always told people most towns I can roll into a Mexican restaurant I've never been to before, and I can be in and out of there eating lunch faster than I could McDonald's. Yeah. So that's I'd say I could eat Mexican food 3 meals a day. It ain't a problem. Yeah. So I can survive that.
Yeah. How can everybody find you if they want to buy or sell or just learn from you?
Oh, that's easy. Just go to hollandhall.com. You'll run me down. I'm there in College Station, but I'm easy to find on the website. So just go to our website, hollandhall.com, and or shoot me an email, call me, whatever. Text me like we were talking. WhatsApp, I don't care.
Yeah.
Just reach out to me.
Do you have personally, or does the brokerage have a social media presence?
Oh yeah. We're I would say that the one that we're most excited about is YouTube because of the property films we produce. Of course, a lot of those are mountain centric, but even in Texas, some of the stuff we've done with game and cattle, and it's just fun to watch. So we have people that just stream our channel on YouTube. Our marketing team does an excellent job of keeping everything out there on social media. And then, we've got a email subscription and all that stuff if people want to kind of keep up with what we're doing, what our inventory is. It's we try to push it out there pretty hard.
Yeah. Well, y'all check them out. You want to buy or sell a ranch, or just look at some cool ranches that they have listed. Y'all look up Hall and Hall, look up Tyler, reach out to him. We'll see y'all next time.
A mastermind has the sole purpose of getting you further, faster, and that's exactly what we're doing with the Wealthy Cowboy Show Mastermind. It is for the person that's ready to start out building their business, or someone just looking to get their business to the next level. We will have live Q&A calls that you can ask past and future guests questions that relate specifically to you. You'll also hear ideas and be able to network with people that could open you up to a completely different way of thinking that could change your life. Click the link below if you're looking to go to the next level in business and in life.